This is the CDS Q&A session. We will cover various topics. So the first set of topics is from Ericsson team. So Rodrigo, you want to go through your set of questions here? Rodrigo? Rodrigo, are you on mute? I think you're back now.
Hello?
Hey, Rodrigo. I think we lost you for a minute. Are you back?
Hello?
Rodrigo, can you hear us?
I have to call again. Hey, sorry guys, we kind of lost the connection here. I think they are not hearing us. I can't hear him yet, but I think he can hear us.
Hey, Rodrigo, can you hear us?
Oh yes, now I can.
Okay, all right. So let me resume and start your question.
Okay.
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 So do you want to go through the questions now? You want to read them out?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
You want to read out your questions?
Oh, okay. So the first question we have is how can we run the code so we can do our integration and acceptance tests? Because I have seen that there are some Docker files in the project, but when I tried to run a Docker Compose, it gave a problem that the image did not exist. So how can we spin up this CDS so we can run, make some tests, see how it works? Or can we do that in a laptop, or do we need to have a cloud environment?
Let me answer to your question actually. Okay, we are building that series for Dublin release. Okay, so it means like whatever you could see or whatever that information you could see with respect to Docker Compose, all with the non-tested framework and each individual developers of framework. And moreover, IBM Montreal team, I think that Steve is working on that, building the Docker image, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bartosi. Building on that Docker images as well as the Kubernetes platform. And answering to your question, okay, only we have available the code. Okay, we don't have that working Docker image, so we are working on that Dublin release not to make it done.
So at this moment, we don't have a way to run the CDS.
Yeah, exactly. Integration test. It's not. We are not to that level of integration testing.
So and here.
Actually, the Docker image is already working, I believe, right? And they're already working for both. That has been fixed for some time, and so it's possible to run it, and I think even OM, right? Steve, are you working also on OM? The OM also, so you can actually even deploy this in the OM. But I'm not sure it has been merged though in the OM.
Yeah, it hasn't been merged.
Guys, we are getting a lot of noise here. Okay, so that finally that point here, it's like the team is working on that for Dublin release plan, And once it is ready, I think Butso will publish that information to you guys in order to get the Docker image and get it, and you can run it locally.
Okay. So we will have to any kind of test we do right now. We would have to use the unit test level. But coming back a little, I understand that if the project OM has Docker images we can use. Sorry, it was not clear to me what about OM.
So the point was that the IBM Montreal team has submitted the feature for supporting the OAM help charts for Blueprint Processor, but they haven't been merged yet. I believe the IBM Montreal team and Alexia, they're planning to test it, and then that feature will be merged so that you can run it through the OAM itself.
Yeah, adding to that point, right now it is not ready. And what is your role in this project actually? You are trying to run that integration testing?
My role is to develop CC/SDK 926. So as part of my explorations to understand the code base, I was thinking that if I could run the code and see it running, it would be a great way for me to learn faster. Also, it would allow me to do tests, trying to try to reach ODL and all these interconnections in a way that I would know it's working, it's not mocking or disturbing. But okay, we will be waiting for the merge of the Docker images.
If you want to run locally, because the code is I think. In order to work, you don't need a Docker container. The code itself enough, and for your local environment and local run-up, it's enough for you to develop it. If you need a help, IBM Montreal.
Okay, thank you. I'm not here if the code open now, but I'll come back to you if you need it. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to go through the third question, Rodrigo?
Sure. How can we communicate with the ODL component? Because the ODL is inside SDNC, and I understood from a previous meeting that we would use SLI to do that. But if somebody could further elaborate on how can we communicate, it would be great.
Before that, what purpose you want? What kind of communication that you are expecting? So to retrieve MD-SAL information, or to connect to that any of that northbound APIs? What kind of connection? What kind of integration that you are expecting, or what?
Because we will have to send commands, the configuration information to the PNF using ODL. So I was wondering, how can we send this configuration commands through ODL, and where we can find the ODL to use? Because I understand that we will be sending commands to ODL, so ODL could forward them to the PNF. That's what I'm trying to discover.
So in that case, you are using a RESTconf, right? You are trying to connect to ODL through RESTconf, or any other manner that you are expecting to connect.
That's a point that's not clear for me, because I thought it was netconf only.
Exactly. Okay. So I will talk about the two-way connection. One is connecting from ODL or connecting from directed graph, which is running inside the ODL container, to CDS. That's a one way of connection. Okay, it's basically getting a call from ODL to CDS platform. And second thing is like that another connection, another way of connecting is connecting from CDS to ODL. Okay, in order to retrieve MD-SAL information, or in order to kick off any of the existing flow. Okay, existing directed graph flow. Two types of connection. That first connection. Suppose if you want to connect from ODL to CDS, that is applicable for only for generic resource API, because all the actions, all the northbound APIs, we are migrating to that CDS platform, okay, for new services and the new implementation. For legacy, and if you couldn't do that in a self-service way, whatever we have it in ODL, it is not a self-service way. So it's like a custom flow, I could say that, with respect to service or with respect to particular logic, it's a custom flow. So sometimes you may not avoid in terms of connecting to the CDS for certain actions or certain self-service package execution. In that case, what we have done is we have created a gRPC API for process. One second, please. Yeah. For process, we have created a gRPC API, and Alexi already created a gRPC client on ODL side. Okay, always that entry point, it's like the process one API, that is a dynamic API and reusable API and common API for all. So using that API, you are going to transact, or you are going to send that message, or you are going to invoke that corresponding action based on that blueprints. Okay, so we Alexi already created the client for that using that bundle, and that will be converted into execute node. And with that execute node, you can call from any of your directed graph as you are calling REST API or database API or even your own execute logic. Okay, in that way you can try to connect from here from ODL to CDS. That is a that's a one-way connect. That's a connection from ODL to CDS. Okay. I think you are able to visualize that. Is there any point that I want to discuss further in this case?
Yeah, to give you a little context, the component that we are talking about, this is the continuation from the 5G configuration with netconf use case, and the idea was that the controller northbound APIs, there should be an implementation for template lookup and download target via ODL netconf connector.
Right. That is going to be the second use case that.
Yeah, that's the second. Let me talk.
Yeah, I think that's more interesting for us. I think that's what we were trying to get to. And this, from the last meeting, we understand that this is not there is no RESTconf connector available. It's only netconf. So what we were trying to get to is how would the template? Is there any existing template lookup mechanism in there?
Exactly. Let me talk about that a little bit. Okay. So in this case, okay, the first point, I think you guys are aware of why we are making that, because even for current DG itself, it doesn't support the asynchronous mechanism. And whatever the blueprint processing time, it is going to take at least minimum more than 3 minutes of time, I could say that, okay, in terms of resource resolution. Based on the capability, what kind of capability that you are trying to build, it takes a corresponding time. So in that case, we want to build a asynchronous mechanism, and we don't have that enough infrastructure to build that asynchronous mechanism in a quicker way. That's the reason we use a gRPC client. We build one gRPC client on the ODL side if there is necessity to connect to CDS platform. I think most of the cases it is not needed because it's entirely two different platforms. And suppose in cases like, suppose if you want to reuse the resource resolution capability, which is not going to be in ODL, so in that case you can make use of the gRPC client and pass that enough information to get it done. Okay, this is the first level of interaction. Let me talk about the second level of interaction. Okay, I believe you guys all understand that this is a component architecture and a function-based architecture. Okay, so we are doing a function orchestration. You can say in future it may be a serverless function. Okay, later point after. So what we are trying to do? Okay, we are trying to make all the functions as an individual unit, and you can plug into this platform. Okay, so and model that component in a blueprint. Okay, and make use of and try to create that orchestration. So in this case, what we are trying to say that you can build your own component and then you can inject the component. That component can have any nature. Any nature means what I'm trying to say is like you can write your own database logic to persist or retrieve. Okay, what kind of information you want to do based on the particular capability, right? And second thing is like you can interface with any third-party applications also. So in that case, you can build your own interfacing mechanism. You can You can build your own server itself, or you can, if you want to try to connect with any REST API which is inside your organization, you can try to build that component, that interfacing component, and plug into this architecture and model and plug into this architecture. So in that way, okay, right now as a part of a framework, okay, we are trying to build for Dublin, we are trying to build for NetConf, okay. And assume that the second point I'm trying to discuss with RESTConf. Okay, before that, I will try to explain that NetConf a little bit to make it understand. Okay, why we are trying to build this capability as a separate capability? We have faced a lot of issues with respect to even ODL using the NetConf adapter. Okay, because certain devices we have which is not part of the standard and which is not mountable as well as not invocable through that NetConf adapter provided by the ODL. So at the time, what we have developed a separate adapter, okay, which is like a custom adapter, which suits for that most of our cases. In our cases, one of our devices, SVG kind of devices, it performs, it has a lot of custom NetConf transactions and NetConf message, even sending the message itself in a different way, and even commit it has a custom way of sending that message. So at the time, what we thought, it's like with existing ODL NetConf, we can't build or we can't interface with all the devices, what all the certified NetConf devices, so-called certified devices they say, we can't connect with that. Okay, we need some enhancement on that. And moreover, only one version it's possible if I try to use it inside that NetConf, and because of a lot of other complexity and YANG versioning issues and monitoring versions issues, a lot of other issues, then we could not achieve very effectively inside that NetConf, inside using that ODL NetConf adapter. So what we thought, we can build our own adapter, okay, and only thing is like with respect to the scenario, you want to connect a 1.0 version of NetConf, okay, you can develop 1.0 version of NetConf and have it as a capability component and have it and try to make a connection and send the configuration. If certain devices needs 1.2, then you can make it. Certain devices needs a different version and different flavor, then you can build it. Let's say for one example, if I want to use a NetConf with the TLS support, okay, by default SSH support is there, okay, and TLS support if you want. So in that case, you can build your own adapter, own component function, I could say, and try to include that and model it and try to make use of in your flow. So that is our architecture behind that, okay, in terms of a component function. Okay, now coming back to the RESTConf, how I pass it here to take some questions here with respect to that NetConf or whatever I just, okay, so that I can move on to the next topic, RESTConf, how to achieve.
And we are okay with actually using the NetConf functionality if that's available. It's just that we probably have to enhance this for TLS. I think we understood part of the discussion that was happening, is that there was a custom adapter that was built for NetConf communication, and that currently is based off SSH and YANG 1.1. Is that a correct understanding?
So what we are trying to say is like we are not going to expect anybody to build their own adapter and make use of this platform to for their component or for the configuration management. And being a part of the framework, we are trying to deliver one NetConf custom capability component just to showcase that post configuration, okay, post instantiation, okay, just for framework understanding perspective and how it works, that we are trying to do it for Dublin. And if corresponding organization needs that customization, okay, you can deliver as part of a framework, or you can build inside your organization itself.
Brinda, I guess Raj's point was that the current NetConf adapter we're planning to support is only supporting SSH, right?
Yeah, exactly. SSH.
And if they wanted for Dublin, right? And what Raj is saying is that they can add TLS support on top of that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so even they can contribute, okay, TLS support with that NetConf. Okay, that is well and good. Or else they can, if they are in a hurry and they want to build internally also, they can go ahead and build that also. That's the point I'm trying to say. Okay, but
Okay, so there is an option where they can add TLS support on top of
but the commitment from Dublin release, it's whatever we have committed. I'm not sure whether we can take that, extend that commitment. Okay, we can work on that extension, but the problem is like with respect to commitment, I can't commit that.
Mm-hmm. So the other point is that let's say that they did want to just use whatever Open Daylight has to offer to connect to CDS, they would just use RESTConf for that?
No, let me talk about that next point.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, with respect to NetConf custom adapter, any questions that we want to discuss? Other teams also there. We have a lot of teams there.
Rodrigo, Raj, does this clarify why we're building the NetConf adapter?
Yeah, I think we still have to go back and analyze though. As when you say that for the TLS support, if it requires enhancement, is that something that we could contribute to, or this has to happen within the ongoing commitments that Vinda has?
You can absolutely contribute to this.
Exactly. That's what, with respect to project team perspective, because this wasn't included. That's the reason I'm trying to say that.
Okay.
We can take this contribution if you are able to achieve within the Dublin release, but the problem is like we want to communicate this, okay? We already communicated what we are going to deliver, right? So if you want to enhance the TLS support, we can do that, but the problem is like we can't commit as a project. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, and the alternative being that we make this ODL connector part of the blueprint function itself. Is that the alternative?
I will talk about that point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So now it's like now I will specifically talk about your use.
I have a question.
1 second. I think there's a question.
So from CDS to NetConf, the communication is going to happen using DG, or it can be anything?
No, it can. It's a component function. It is not going to happen through DG.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think I answered your question, right? Okay. So let me put that architecture. This architecture, we are keeping in a mind of self-service. Okay. The self-service means there should be a separate role for developer. There should be a separate role for designer, and role for developer ends in terms of creating the component and giving that model for that particular component. And rest other thing, we want to involve with VNF owner just to orchestrate that flow. So in that case, we don't want to make a lot of design or a lot of development informations on that directed graph. So that's the reason we are trying to make like a component orchestration instead of a directed graph. We want to make a component orchestration and build that component with the help of developer. Okay, and sometimes it may be a reusable component along with the dynamic scripting where self-service owner or VNF owner can do that. So that's a plan that we are trying to take in order to achieve a self-service process. Okay, and one more thing, adding to the point, if you look into the current DGs, okay, which is not a completely self-service driven, okay, is mostly done by developer, and it won't, most of the things VNF owner can't understand that, okay, what we are trying to do, and that's the reason we are taking a slightly one level, macro level approach. Okay, it means like come up with your component, inject your component, and only VNF owner can design what kind of component that I want to invoke, and what kind of configuration parameters I want to pass to that. That's it. Okay, and coming to that RESTConf, how we can achieve that. So here, that RESTConf, it's like a component. Assume that you are trying to create assume that you already mount a device on a ODL existing platform itself. Okay, you could be able to mount the device. In that case, you need to form that message for mounting, and as well as you need a message to send a configuration. Okay, there are two things only that you need. Okay, that message creation, as well as, or you can say that the payload or RPC message creation, that you can do it in CDS completely, and just use that RESTConf API. Okay, because it's already exposed. So ODL by default it exposes the RESTConf API, right? Using that REST endpoint, okay, from CDS platform itself, you have a message, you know that you have all the credential informations, and because you from the blueprints itself you could derive that all the information, and message templates also you could derive from the blueprint information, from the CBA file information. So with that, what you can do is you can create a message, you can create a transaction flow also altogether completely in your CDS platform, and just use the REST services. Okay, assume that it is a third party or other REST services I want to invoke during my process. So with that message, with that information, you can invoke that ODL, okay, which is a different platform, which is not in the same container, which will be in a different container. You can try to connect to that controller, which is on which your device already mounted, and try to send the configuration and get back the response. So in that way, you can manage the transaction here. It's like just one component with REST capability, okay, REST sending capability. That will satisfy your rest of the cases, because we already building that scripting framework, and we already have that REST instance information. So it means like a REST client already we built that, and we already built that configuration management, so that dynamically you can add your configuration of your remote controller in a configuration way. In your configuration you can put that, and you can and moreover we have that other framework in order to retrieve that templates and do that resolution and all those things. So applying or combining all these things, okay, finally end of the day you are going to create one component which sends that REST message to your controller via response, right? Any confusion in this?
Yeah, around the template lookup part, I think we couldn't grasp that when you said yes, if the ODL is exposed already and it has exposed its REST endpoints, we could call from the blueprint component to make a REST call for mounting and unmounting the device. But the fact that you mentioned how you can look up those templates and this is already available, we didn't catch that part.
Template means, just I want to make it clarify, because people use the templates in multiple locations. What exactly the template you are trying to explain? Is it a configuration message, or what is the template means here?
Yeah, it's basically to send configurations after mounting it.
After mounting, you need to get the configuration, right?
Yeah.
That configuration, it is in ODL, right?
No. He's talking about the template that is meshed with the parameters. That's the configlet.
Yeah. One second, Yuri. So it's like after mounting, you are trying to talk about that configuration, or you are trying to talk about the configuration that you are going to send to the device?
The configuration I'm going to send to the device.
So what's the thing is, in this case, you are trying to model that template, right? So that template you are going to model in a velocity, right? So that is a part of your CBA file. That's clear, right? That portion you are clear?
Yes.
Okay. So that configuration message is a part of your CBA file. Now you are going to build one function component which has access to that all the templates that you have. That's what yesterday I explained, that get artifact is the one function we have created. So with that function, you can get that artifact name. With that name, you can get that entire content itself, right? So you can get that content and form that message. Okay, you want, and finally now you have a configuration to send to the device. You know that endpoint information. You know the credential RESTconf. It means like a RESTconf information. Okay, and you have that rest of the parameters. It's like how I want to do that orchestration or how I want to invoke in a sequence. That you are going to do it in a dynamic scripts. Okay, so you have dynamic scripts, you have template, and then you have endpoints. With this, and along with it, you have REST capability also, REST client capability. So with this, you are going to make a call to the RESTconf ODL, right?
Okay.
I think I answered your question. Any points that I want to discuss further?
I think at this point we have to go back and look. In the sense, I think you've given us a lot of information which we probably didn't know, and At this point, we're just absorbing. So please continue.
Yeah,
Just to reinstate right what Brenda said, there is already a resource resolution component that is being contributed. There is a component that does the resource parameter meshing with the templates and that generate configlets. And with those, that's something you can leverage to in your new component to kind of connect to the ODL, send a mount message, retrieve those configlets, and then do an unmount. I think those.
Yuri, can you give me a second? It's like a. Can I share my screen?
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. See here. Okay, so here this is a blueprint model, right? So in this case we have a template section. So here the place where you are going to put your all the templates, okay, all the configuration what to send to the device. Okay, so you can put all the templates with that namings and all. And this is a script, okay. So just one script I could say that, okay, here we have created one Kotlin based script, okay. So in this case we are going to enhance this implementation, okay, by passing. You have all the references here. So it means, okay, this is a dynamic script. So you are going to place how I want to invoke that. Okay, this is a dynamic script, and it's a reusable script also. Okay, so if you want an extra or a different way of accessing logic, then only you are going to enhance this. Otherwise, we are going to give a set of reusable scripts. So in that case, you don't want to touch that single line of code itself. Okay. So here you have a script, okay, you have a template, and here you have a dynamic script, and then you have a platform, okay, you have a platform, assume that in this case, one case, let me show that, okay. So what we are trying to do is like, I think this point I will take it later, okay, in this call itself, no, next off I will take this point in order to explain, because many people are interested in that. So what I'm trying to say, it's like we have the template and we have a dynamic scripts, and inside the blueprints, okay, let me show that one of the blueprints actually. Inside the blueprint, we have that function, okay, we are defined like this artifact. We can define that artifact for this particular template, and we can make use of that, okay. Now artifact is defined as a part of your component, and using that function, okay, runtime service, okay, we have another by default all components has a runtime service. Let me show that also. See here. So here we have a blueprint runtime service. Okay. So this blueprint, using this blueprint runtime service, it has a set of informations, okay, with respect to blueprint or blueprint related information. So it means like you want to resolve that expression, you want to get that artifact, okay, you want to understand that node. Okay, see here, resolve node template artifact. Okay, so in that case you are passing that artifact name, you can get the content of that entire artifact. So making use of this runtime service, it has all the functionalities which is needed, and which is needed to manage that entire transactions, as well as to manage the templates, okay, and using that APIs effectively. All those implementations are available here. So with the blueprint runtime service and blueprint models, you are able to access the template, and you are able to access the configuration information. You are able to access the dynamic scripts, and it can invoke the dynamic scripts, okay, so that it can do any functions whatever you are trying to implement as a component or capability, right? I believe you guys are getting it, or it's a vague or.
Brenda, maybe it would be good if it would be possible to kind of make like a small walkthrough, from the
okay.
the blueprint itself, just maybe not all the details, but what are the like the major, let's say, classes which are involved in this process.
Exactly. Okay, so in that case, we will take this question and answer at the end, and I will walk through this, because this is the agenda of this meeting actually, and once I complete that, we can take the question. I think people may understand a lot. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about how that scripting works here in this case. Then I think most people will understand how we are going to do. Okay, and let me start from that last session we had. Okay, last session what I mentioned that. Okay, we are using a directed graph for lightweight component orchestration. So that code is here. Okay, we have a DG execution service. We have that. So basically, with that, you could see that here also we use that blueprint runtime service, right? From that blueprint runtime service itself, we are trying to get the even directed graph itself. Okay, so let me show the directed graph. Okay, directed graph, it's simple. Okay, you could see that these are all the directed graphs. Okay, you can build your directed graph, and it is a much simpler directed graph. So it's only the component orchestration, which connects to only the component. Okay, so we have a component in that. Let me open that. So it shows only thing is what is that node template name. This is a node template name mapped to that component instance, right? So node template name, and you are trying to say that failure success what it has to do. Okay, this is one more thing called assign and activate. Okay, this is one graph which calls one component and next another component. So the first component it calls is resource assignment. Okay, and after that successful, if it is a success, that particular resource assignment successful, then it calls that activate JSON. It's like a netconf capability component. You can include your own component according to your platform, whatever the platform you injected. So this directed graph is very simple, not more than that, and you don't have any property or any parameters. Only you are trying to orchestrate. It's like a Lambda function or AWS Lambda. Some people may aware of that. Okay, just only trying to connect that, or Spring Data Flow. Okay, it's connecting a component, only the component, and you're trying to say that success and failure. That's it, not more than that. Okay, in a directed graph. And so based on that, okay, so this execution service, okay, first it understands that model based on that action, and based on that, okay, first it understands that what is a directed graph node. Okay, first it takes that what is a directed graph node, and it uses that artifact function. See here, this uses the artifact function to get the graph basically, and getting that artifact definition, and as well as it can get that content itself. Okay, so you could see that it is a file path. From that blueprint itself, it can understand what is a file path location of that directed graph. Similarly, for templates also you make use of that. Okay, and it gets that graph, and finally it creates an instance and invokes that instance. Okay, in this way, okay, it can understand based on that action, and based on that blueprint model and version, it can understand that what directed graph I want to execute. Now the directed graph execution process starts actually. Okay, now in this way we can dynamically even model the directed graph and directly put it under the plans, so that you don't want to wait for a development cycle, and you can model very effectively and handle or manage very effectively. Okay, and coming back to that, how it executes. Okay, so for that we have an execute function. It's the same SLI. Okay, and we extend that SLI. We are not tweaking any other XLI. So in that case only you could see that. Okay, it is execute node. Okay, which is nothing but the execute node of SLI itself. Okay, we are not doing much difference. Okay, and which uses a workflow blueprint service logic. Right, blueprint service logic is nothing but extension of our service logic base. So you could see that service logic base. Why? Because why we define that certain things? It's like because we are passing that data. We want to pass that blueprint runtime service throughout that place in order to access that blueprint. So this is the only thing that we want to pass blueprint instead of context. Not only the context, we want to pass the blueprint runtime services. Just we extended that this information, and this is the place exactly which executes it. It's a common logic, the same thing that we are trying to use, and this is the exact thing that you are trying to see that. So it creates a own context, and it sets that input to the directed graph. So whatever that input we receive from that northbound API, in this case inbound, so we set that input and then we execute that graph. Okay, and finally we are getting that response and returning the response back. So this is all about executing the graph. And this talks about whenever it hits execute that node. Okay, it's like a component. Whenever it hits a node, it will try to make use of this execute. Okay, so this execute node completely here we are using a completely non-blocking function. Okay, it means like it won't burden your server. It's a high performance, and we are using a coroutines for that. Yeah, which is another way of handling that asynchronous very effectively and non-blocking way. So that's the reason you could see the coroutine scope, and then inside the coroutine scope, we are calling that execute asynchronous. Okay. And so now what the thing is, we know that component, we know that interface, we know that operation. Okay. So it means like you can able to get what are all the configurations attached to that particular action or particular component. I'm able to get all these information from here. Okay. So what this thing is, so I'm trying to get that, all those things, and finally trying to set and finally invoking. Okay, this is that apply method which invokes the component function. So based on that, what function or what plugin that we are executing, so it retrieves that component name. Okay, you could see that it retrieves the component name and it creates an instance for that. Okay, it creates an instance. Okay, get component function. Okay, for the particular component name. And basically it tries to execute that, right? So now that execution will be handled to the corresponding your function, right? So here only it provides a handle and returns a handle to this corresponding. So in this case, one example, let me talk about resource resolution. Okay, so in this case, one resource resolution. So we have a resource resolution component, so which takes that abstract component. As I said in that last session, so abstract is the key. Okay, so you don't want, why we are using that abstract? Because abstract handles a certain validation, certain reusable functionality, and certain pre-populating that certain information. So in that case, you don't want to recreate for this each all component or every component. That's the reason. So we have created abstract function. And making that mandatory. If you are trying to create a new function, then you should extend this abstract component function in order to get all functional, all pre-populated data as well as validation. Okay, so here what we are trying to do. Okay, just assume that whenever you are getting a request. Okay, so this is that apply function. You could see that, right? So here we have apply function. So this is a default Java function method. Okay. So here we have a prepare. What we are trying to do, first we are preparing that request, and then we are calling a process. We are calling a prepare response. So in between, we will later going forward, we will have that recovery mechanism also. We are planning to include that if there is any failure in the process, then it should go to that recovery mechanism. Okay. So let me talk about here what we are trying to do first in this case. In this case, whenever we are getting the request, this execution service request is the northbound request. Assume that it is a northbound request for a component, okay, in order to execute a certain workflow action. So you have a execution flow, and then you have a request, and from that, what we are trying to do, we are trying to retrieve the blueprint runtime service, okay, and then okay, let me go on by step. Okay, that's step name, and then we are checking that whether blueprint runtime service is available or not. Okay, and then we are trying to.
Brinda, sorry, just a quick question. Could you just kind of recall what is the blueprint runtime service exactly? What is the purpose of that? Is it the blueprint? Is it what the content of the entire parse?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what it is. Okay.
It provides a handle and it provides some utility method in terms of retrieving the data from the blueprint. Say for an example, blueprint it's not a single file. Okay, it needs it has a certain file structure also. So suppose if I want to get a script, it means like artifact. I want to retrieve that artifact. So I need a utility, and as well as from one transaction, one component to another component, if I move, I want to retain the state of the previous transaction or previous component information. Say for an example, output of one component has to be has to feed to that other component. Then it means like we need some manager, okay, so which can manage manage that information itself, okay, the data, what it is going from starting to end, okay, and as well as it has to manage certain utilities in terms of accessing that information from Blueprint very effectively and easily. And sometimes we want to resolve that expressions also, so it provides a function to resolve that expressions. Okay, all functionality, or even so many functionalities. That's the reason it's a Blueprint runtime service. It's a core. And let me put ahead also, okay, that future how it should transform. Right now, we are targeting that Blueprint runtime service as a single platform. It means like it is going to run in a single JVM or a single container. But this is not the case in future. In future, what may happen? Okay, I can come up with one server, okay, and I want to integrate that particular logic with the Blueprint time platform. So it means like a distributor and a multi-container I want to orchestrate. So in that case, what we want to do, we want to transform that Blueprint runtime service to persist the data to the database, so that even if I go to the next container also, I could access that information. For time being, that's the reason you could see that, okay, Blueprint runtime information, it's overreadable. Okay, so we have provided a default, okay, which is not a database driven, okay, which is a hash map driven for the store. But if you have a plan to run it in a distributed containers, okay, not a single container, okay, if you are planning to run in that case, this store will become a database store. Okay, so just I'm giving a further also a future how it should. For right now, we don't have the use case because that assumption is like all the components we are going to have it in a single container. Okay. Did I answer your question, Bartosi?
Yeah, perfect. Yes. Okay. Anyways, let's say later I talk. I'm wondering, how you foreseeing to do that in the multiple containers. But anyways, let's not talk about that right now. Let's just focus on what's there.
Because people may see that some unnecessary codes you may see now, but that is so keeping future in that mind. Yeah. Okay. So people may ask like why you are putting that string.json node, why you can't directly put that. Okay, so it means like, so what I'm trying to say that even hash map also you can manage that. Okay, you can use a map with a string of JSON if you want, because this is a common reusable platform across that. Okay, it is not only for a controller, not only for CDS. This platform it's common for all. Okay, so in that case,
okay, got it.
Yeah, in that case, you can define your own Blueprint runtime services, how you want to access that store. You can define, and then you can make use of that. Yeah. Okay. Till now, I think others are clear, or I stop here to take some questions. Yeah.
Perhaps we could go back to the questions and then come back to code as needed.
That's the reason you don't understand that. Okay, so if I go to the answer or question, then you may not understand the framework. That's the reason you can't correlate also.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So now what the thing is, we have that component function altogether completely. So it means reusable functionalities are available, and you know that functionality for the Blueprint processing server, Blueprint runtime service, and as well as the abstract function. Now it's a matter of building that what kind of component that we want to do. Okay, and along with this framework, we are trying to give another. It's a Python executor. Okay, Python executor. It's like a common Python framework. So where you can dynamically inject your scripts and then make use of that. How to execute that. Okay, so let me talk about this case. Okay, this is also assuming as a component. Okay, so we have defined as a component Jython function, and what are the function that you are trying to build, it possesses that it needs a dynamic scripting nature. Then you can extend this function directly, or extend this component Jython executed directly. Okay, or else you can create your own abstract component functions in a way. Okay, so what it is trying to do. So in this case, okay, see here, it has a Python executor property. It means like it has that information about what is the default Python or pip related modules locations and where it has to execute, and all those configuration you could get from that Python property executor. And whenever you are
Can I
hitting
ask
that
a question?
Python component, what it is trying to do, in this case, it is a simple, right? So what I want to do, I want to get a corresponding Python file, and then I want to invoke a function, right? That's all about, right?
Brenda,
Yeah.
can I ask a question? Okay, this is basically for executing a Jython script. Okay, this is good. We get, basically from the nodes properties, we get, the path, everything, right, that we need. But I think there's also, which context, this could be, because, we're talking about components, we're talking about data resolution, and so I think, it would be possible, maybe not at this moment, but sometime also to explain, the other part of the processing here, like how, in which circumstances we could end up, executing this. Because, for example, like in the DG, we can execute it from a DG, for example, right?
Let me explain that. Okay. So from DG, you can only call a component, not any other thing. Okay, you can directly call a component from a directed graph. So it means like you can model the components in a directed graph, and then you can call it directly. But
and this is a component, right?
This is a component.
It's component Jython, so we can call this basically, right? Okay.
A component. So you can call from DG only the component. You can call that. Let me talk about a little bit about the resource resolutions in this case. Okay. So resource resolution, it's nothing but, okay, suppose for an example, I need a data from a system, okay, so at that place only that we are having a resource resolution, okay. That resource resolution, we already identified the reusable way of accessing the resources from external system. We already identified, such as a database, how we can generalize to read the data from database, and for REST-based system, how we can understand the data, okay, in terms of getting the response in a JSON format, and how to look at data in a certain path, and how we can translate that particular data in a path to what we need in our model. So we already identified all the reusable steps, okay, to access the data. And make use of the data in our processing platform. But what happens now? The problem comes. It's like certain cases. It is not 100% we can reuse that existing functionality. Think about, like, I want to access data. I want to send that IP address in a different format. Okay, but the source system it is having in a different format. Then I want to consume that data in a different way, which I could not do it in a modeling, and as well as I could not get that information from a source system. So in that case, I need to tweak the system, or I need to provide some custom logic to, even in terms of a transformation, or even in terms of business logic. Okay? Say for an example, if the data is like this, I want to return in this format. Okay, if the data is like this, I want to return in this format. So in that case, there is a necessity for custom, or it's like we need to write some piece of code, okay, in order to operate in that platform. Okay, so that's where we are getting
basically doing protocol conversion, right? Or for example, you might need some, like, the retrieval of the data could consist in multiple messages, for example, right, or something, right? And you need to transform it. You need to add some logic to it, and the idea is that you're going to use a script, right?
Yeah,
to add that logic in the data retrieval. Okay, that's perfect.
Exactly.
This is clear, right? So
reason,
now how do we get there? that's the question.
Exactly. And we may need a certain scripting, not at a component layer. It is in a data resolution layer, which is operating in a sequence of dependency management, okay, which is not in a flow management, which is operating in a dependency management. I think once you understand the resource resolution, then only you know that the dependency management, right? So
this is good. Please go on.
Yeah. Okay. Now, in the dependency management, we want to inject our custom component, right? So keeping in a self-service mind, and keeping in it's like we don't want a downtime. Okay, I can write a script, and then I can deliver I can deliver to a part of a CBA file. Okay, then it should be automatically injected during that resource resolution itself. Okay, so there is a clear separation between component function and as well as the resource resolutions. Okay, yeah, you are clear. So in this component function, what we are trying to do in the component function, it is like a high level orchestration. okay, just by connecting or what I could say that connecting or managing the transactions, okay, not the data, okay. And resource resolution scripting it is of managing the data, right? Managing the data in a chunk, okay. So this
Okay,
is,
yes, very.
yeah, okay. So that's the reason we have two different set of interface, okay. One, it's like a component interface, it's just for component, and resource resolution it's like internal logic, okay. Resource resolution is altogether it's a single component, okay, single component which we consider as a reusable and platform and capability component. That's the reason we have introduced this resource resolution also. Otherwise, resource resolution is not needed for this framework because we need a certain places and people want to reuse this functionality. That's the reason we introduce as a platform framework. So what we are trying to do, so already we have defined that resource resolution processor, okay, as you mentioned.
Sorry to ask again. So basically when you say platform means like, what is, because, you know, it's a very generic term, right? So this means like basically a set of functions or a library, or what is a platform in this case?
Platform is a blueprint runtime. You could say that entire blueprint processing platform itself. It's like an entire flow. One flow.
Okay.
Okay, it is like a DG orchestration. Okay, assume that this is a component. Inside the component, you are doing a data management, and here, whatever the function we have, it is a component, multiple component orchestration. Right? You are clear, right?
Okay.
Okay. Let me move on. I think once you put your hands, I think you will come to know that, or if you run a JUnit test cases, you will come to know that. Okay. Yeah. See here. We have, as I said earlier, we already identified certain reusable capabilities in order to resolve the resources, such as defaults. Defaults means in a blueprint, if you define a default, so that is also one way of accessing the resources, right? So sometimes what happens, no, you may not provide that data in our external system or during that part of the flow. Sometimes you tell that, okay, take a default value. So it means like whatever defined in a blueprint, the default value, then that is the one way of accessing that resource, right? So that's the reason we have a default resource processor. And sometimes what will happen, that particular data will come from input, okay? So during the part of the request itself, we will get that input. So in that case, I am trying to say that, okay, that for a particular resource, you want to get from that input. So in that case, we have identified that input. And MySQL database, so for that we have a data source database. It means like that model is given in a way of a query, and output based on that query, it returns that value, and it creates a data structure, okay, in order to process. And resource assignment process, this is a key interface, let me come later. Okay, and then REST services. So we have identified till now four major categories, okay, default, input, primary, and REST. Okay, these are all we know that well-defined format, okay. And certain cases we may not expect that. Sometimes, no, you want access from local file system. The data may be a local file system, like a configuration information. Certain cases it may be like a in between some commands you want to execute and then you want to go there. So in that case, what I'm trying to say that there is a definitely necessity for custom implementation accessing that certain data. So for that purpose, we have introduced a capability resource assignment processor. Okay, so capability resource assignment processor, it's a completely pure non-generic way of accessing that data. Okay, so as we said that earlier, this is a self-service platform. So in that case, I don't want a downtime, or I don't want to inject a code there. Okay. So for that, how? If I'm not going to down the server, so in that case, the only way I could say it's like I can provide a script, and then that script should be a part of CBA file, and somehow you try to understand the script and then just execute it and delegate. It means like you are delegating to that platform. Okay, and by providing that script, okay, just to execute whatever present in the script. So that's where it comes like a capability. Okay, now what all the scripts it can understand? That final question. Okay, now capability, it has a multiple way of accessing. Okay, so one, assume that you can develop a component separately And during that build platform, you can inject that. That is one way of development, one way of injecting your custom capability. So that basically we call it like a Java component. Assume that is a Java component. Okay, you can develop the piece of component separately, and then during that build you will inject that. So it means like it is not part of your platform, but during the runtime I will get that assumption. The assumption is like a runtime I will get that. So that is a Java component dependency or Java component execution. And other thing, we have a Kotlin and Jython. It's like the scripting mechanism. Okay, most probably what I will say that if we have enough time, okay, enough time to develop, okay, and then we don't want a dynamic nature, okay, even I'm ready to, because of this microservice coming into picture and containerization coming into picture, you can develop the component and attach your runtime so that you will get a better performance. I'm trying to compare the performance with respect to script and Java component. Mostly I prefer a Java component. If I get a time, I will build that capability component and I will put that custom capability component as part of that application dependency itself during the compile time itself. Okay, I will put that. But certain cases we may not avoid, we can't do for all the cases. Certain cases we want to do it in a scripting way only. So that's the reason we have rest other two things, okay, that Kotlin and the Jython. Okay, how we are going to access that, right? So it means like I am going to give a script. That script should follow a certain pattern, right? That script should follow a certain pattern so that I can invoke that pattern in a generic way. Even though you provide us a script, that script should be in a certain format. So that's the reason. First, let me explain about that Kotlin script here. Okay, how we are trying to access that Kotlin script. Okay, so always that script should have that extension of CBA.kts because we have a dependency management for CBA for DD. So you can develop this script separately. So in this case, you could see that resource assignment processor. That is nothing but it is relevant to capability, that resource assignment processing. Okay, so we have a resource assignment processor. So you could see that, okay, this is a abstract resource assignment processor. So we have certain functionalities, by default functionalities available here. Here you can implement in this process, similar to that, okay, you can implement your own way of accessing that data and finally set that resource assignment value. Finally, end of the day, what resource assignment it does, if you try to look into that other input resource assignment and all those things, it is trying to set a resource assignment value, okay, end of the day. So it means like for each resource assignment field, I believe you guys understand what is resource assignment. Okay, let me show that also what is one resource assignment. Yeah, this is one resource assignment, right? So we have all those things. Only thing is we want to set that value for that. Okay, during a chain, during the process, okay, we are going to use this name in a velocity template. We are going to resolve that value and then we are going to use this value inside the template so that template and data will match together. So it means like I want to get this value for service instance ID, I want to get that value for VNF ID. So that VNF ID and service instance ID, that retrieval process, how I'm going to retrieve, that depends on the dictionary source. Okay, so it may be an input, it may be a database, it may be a REST, or it may be a custom capability component. Okay, so based on that definition, dictionary source information, it is trying to access, it is trying to process the data, and then it tries to set that value in a blueprint runtime service context. Okay, now coming back to that processor. Now we have that CBA file. It is a dynamic script file. So similarly, you can have your own CBA file, CBA.kts file. KTS is a Kotlin script file. Okay, you can have and you can provide your custom implementations inside this file. Okay, so in this case, you can provide a custom implementation. So whenever it reaches that particular point, it invokes this process method and resolves that value, and finally resource assignment will be set inside the value, set inside this value. This is all that we need. Okay, this is with respect to resource assignment processor. Okay, in that way we could achieve that capability functionality. Okay, let me go a little bit earlier how it is trying to do. Okay, so from that resource assignment, it understands that source. Okay, and if the source, from that source, it understands that what are the property informations of the capability. Okay, it understands that resource property information for the capability access, and it tries to understand that instance type. What is the instance type I want to invoke? And based on that instance type, it tries to get as a resource processor and process that value. Okay, and finally it invokes that processor. So this is what it is trying to do. Okay, even Java also it extends the same interface. Even Kotlin also it has to be in same interface, and Jython also it has to be same interface. It has to implement. Okay, so in that way we have generalized that resource assignment process for a scripting mechanism. You can dynamically provide your implementation, own business logic or own implementation with respect to data processing of a particular resource in this case, right? I think, but so I believe you are trying to, I think you understand that, how that now scripting works, right?
A little bit better. Yeah. Okay. So let's say if you go back, let's say to like let's say the activation blueprint, right, which is the key blueprint, right? At some point, it's going to need some data, right? If you go to one of those nodes, right?
Yeah,
then
exactly.
It's going to go to the data definition. The data definition. Yes.
Before that, I want to tell that. Okay, resource resolution is completely different, or it is different from activation JSON. That is a component scripting. Okay, this is a resource assignment processor scripting, right? Okay, there are two levels of scripting. One is a processor. Okay. But I'm trying to say that. Okay, if you are clear, then I can move on to that activation. Okay, you are clear with this, right?
Component. Okay, so component scripting and resource assignment. Okay, that's okay.
Yeah. Similarly, for Jython also, what you want to do, in your case, what the thing is, you want to understand. Basically, we want to get that instance information from that file. So how we are going to get that? Okay. So what kind of information I need to collect from the model perspective? So that's what we want to do the modeling. So from the modeling, I want to collect a file name. From a file name, I want to get that what's the class name also. So two properties I want to get, that class name and property name that I want, file name I want to collect. From that I can translate that Python to that corresponding interface, and I can inject that certain information, certain instance which is a part of the platform itself. Say for an example, inside your script, Jython script or Kotlin script, you want to access a database. So in that case, it is simpler to pass that already populated data accessing information to your script, instead creating that new data access layer in your script, right? So that only component instance injection comes into picture. That dependency injection, you could see that script property instance. Okay, script property instance, it means like you can tell that inside the script, I'm going to use a data access and REST adapter. So in that case, already created data access and REST layer will be passed to that your script, so that you don't want to recreate that. Automatically, it can make use of that. It's like a passing that instance to that next class, right? So you can pass that instance to the next class. So in that case, scripting no need to do much logic. Other than that, only the business logic relevant in terms of processing that information. So yeah, you are clear, right? With respect to process.
Hi, Brinda, this is Steve. Do you hear me? I think I have an issue with my mic. Yes, actually, it's a good explanation about resource resolution and the component, because we are working on the Jython component. I think we understand well how we call the Jython component to trigger some Python script in the resources. But when here you are explaining how resource resolution works, and you said that it's very different with component like Python component. So basically, we want to know how you construct your request to trigger some resource resolution scripting. For example, if you want to if you have your Python script and you prepare I think you show it in a blueprint, a Python script, and then how you prepare your request to trigger your resource resolution.
See here, there is no difference between normal processor and the capability processor, because it is going to extend the same. So it means like whatever that input that you are going to get in that processor, okay, that resource assignment, right? So this is the same request you are going to get into that. So that's where you could see that one of the template, okay, whatever I have shown this just before the template. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it has this resource assignment processor extension, and it has that input of this value. So
the person you are speaking with has put your call on hold. Please stay on the line. ನೀವು ಯಾವ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಮಾತನಾಡುತ್ತಿದ್ದೀರೋ ಅವರು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕರೆಯನ್ನು ಹೋಲ್ಡ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಲೈನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ
Okay. So resource assignments, right? So it is not going to be a different, okay, in your scripts. So it is going to follow the same pattern. Here it uses a Java interface method. There it is going to use a Python. Okay, how Python you are going to extend the superclass. Okay, and then how you are going to override that method. That is the difference. Other than that, input it's going to be the same, and implementation or extension it is going to be same. Right?
Yes, this is clear. Yes, this is clear for me. But I think we want to know how you prepare your device, because in the component here there is no explanation about how we call a resource resolution capability. Yes, something like that. Yeah.
That's the reason we have this is a capability resolution test, right? Capability.
Yeah.
So in this case, assume that, okay, first we are creating a blueprint context. Blueprint context means we are trying to get that blueprint information, complete blueprint information. And then we are creating a resource runtime service, right? We are to create a runtime service. After that runtime service, okay, now these two things only needed in order to invoke any capability process or any resource resolution process. So we have runtime service and then dictionary. Okay, dictionary will be populated based on whenever you want to inject the dictionary. Okay, all together, then you can inject your own dictionary by reading from the file. So dictionaries will be available for all the models or all the resources defined here. Okay, and assume that these are all the scripting instances. Scripting instance means, say for example, one may be a REST services, another may be a DB service, and another may be a X service or Y service. Okay, what are the services you want to instance or you want to inject to the script, then you can inject that script here. Okay, so these are all the informations we'll get from that model, right? So this, you know that already model, how we are getting that, right? Yeah, or else not, let me show that how we are getting from that model. I will explain that, okay? Or also, no, if you sit with Kapil, he will explain that, okay? Basically, you are getting this information from model, what instance to inject, and what kind of source system that we want to select. Assume that you have selected a capability and Kotlin in this case, okay? Kotlin capability source, and then you already selected that these are all the instance I want to inject, and this data I want to resolve. Okay, that's what you are trying to do. So what's the thing is the resource assignment will be in this like this. Okay, this is the RA name, and this is a dictionary name, and I'm saying that dictionary sources capability. So you want to see that sources capability, and then property name. I'm defining that what property. RA name is a property. I'm trying to set as a string value. Okay, if you look into that property definition, it has another value called value. Default. Yeah, value. Yeah. Here you have a value. So this is our ultimate aim of the processor to populate this value, right? Okay, either by any mechanism. You can go with the database or go with any mechanism. You want the final goal for this resource assignment process to populate the value. Okay, so without value we are sending that, and then calling that resource, sending that resource assignment, right? So resource assignment processor dot I'm trying to say. Here it is hard-coded, right? So in this case it is hard-coded, so that's the reason you can call the capability component directly. But if you want to end-to-end test, right? End-to-end how it operates, so this is we have the resource resolution service test, right? Component and service test. Already here it is defined. Okay? In this way you are trying to invoke that corresponding component, right? Here you are trying to set that resource resolution component. If you look into that, this is a resource resolution component altogether, not a single service. In this component, we are passing that blueprint, we are passing that resource resolutions, all the resolutions here, and trying to create that and passing that step input, right? So it's similarly like a DG populating. We are mocking this. Okay, how DG creates that step input, right? So like a step input, we are passing that, and then step input information, all this information we are passing, and calling the component node. So in this way, you can call that. So first, it understands the dependency. So in a resource resolution process, you may have a 10 resource assignment block, so which goes in a certain sequence. Okay, first based on that dependency, it understands the sequence, and based on that source, how it has to resolve, it invokes a corresponding processor, right? That piece of logic is here. That piece of logic is here. See here, we are passing that, and then execute processor. Here you could see that. See here, resource assignment we have, and then resource assignments we have, and then template artifact, that final mashing content. Okay, whatever the mashing content we have that.
Yeah. Actually, this is clear. Okay, thank you.
So this is the place once you execute that, you will come to know that how it is executing. Okay. Now that ultimate aim, it's like we are passing this some minimal set of input, and we are saying that, okay, these are all the resources I want to resolve, and you are saying that this is the final template. Once you resolve that resource, you want to mash that content. Okay, you are trying to say that. So what happens? It invokes a corresponding processor based on the source type, dictionary source type. It invokes a corresponding processor, and then it injects the runtime as well as the dictionary, all those informations to that, and finally it calls the corresponding processor. So based on the processor type, it may be a capability, input, or REST, or even tomorrow later, anything you want to generalize, you can come with that particular processor. Okay, processor, and finally, now it has all the information in a resource assignment, right? Now it has a value on the resource assignment, and finally it comes here. Okay, so here in this place, it is getting a template content. See here, this is a template content. You are getting it, right? Resolve node template. This is a Blueprint runtime service. This is the real purpose of the Blueprint runtime service. Blueprint runtime service, using that resolve node template artifact, we are getting the content of the template. Now we have a JSON content. Okay, already we have a JSON prepared or resource resolved JSON information. Now we have a template. Here we want to mash. So here we are doing that mashing. Okay, so if we have a template, we are going to mash, and then finally returning that payload information, whatever that result in. Some cases, based on that use case, some places you may need only the data, some places you may need the template, right? Based on the situation. Okay, I believe that now resource resolution is like a clear now what we are trying to do. So that now I can talk about netconf, then it will be, you guys can understand.
Sorry, but I still have some query about this resource.
Sorry, your voice is breaking. Yeah.
I don't think that was for you, Brenda.
Okay. Okay. So
sorry, Brenda. Vinal here. I still have some query about this resource resolution processor. So this resource resolution processor, we cannot invoke using our REST request, right? That's what my question was.
Actually, what is the purpose for invoking this REST?
So that's why I still have some confusion about this resource resolution capability and that component. So this resource is
Oh, we can't do that. Yeah, that is not meant for that actually. Why? Because resource resolution can't work separately. Okay, so resource resolution, if you want to work, you need a dictionary, you need a resource assignment. Okay, sometimes you may need a scripts also. So it is in a file content. So without CBA file, you can't invoke as a separate REST service. So if you have a CBA content already, then we have a platform to invoke that. So it means like we already have a platform, okay, which exposes a process. That's what the self-service API we have. Okay, so you know that's how we have self-service API inbound. Right?
Yeah.
Controller. Yeah. Mostly this is the thing, right? This is the process. We have a already REST exposed API, and then automatically it has associated. So in that case, you are going to pass that information called blueprint ID, name, and some minimal input, right? Blueprint name, version, and then action. Okay. So automatically it invokes the resource resolutions and it will return that result. Okay. So why it can't be invoked separately? It's like the function is not complete without CBA. Okay, say for an example, if you model a resource resolution with the capability scripting capability, okay, and if you are not passing that in that REST input, then it's a problem. It's like it stuck somewhere. Okay, so what we are mandating that CBA file is needed for resource resolution because dictionary it is going to be there. Okay, so who is going to pass the dictionary information? So dictionary information we need to have a blueprint information, we need to have that, okay, capability scripting information, all those things that we need. So in that case, if you want to do with that, we already have that API. So in that way you can access it.
Okay, thank you, Renda.
Okay. Yeah. Now before moving to that netconf and questions, okay. So any top, yeah. Now I can take the questions. Yeah. Yuri, I think you can. Yuri, are you there?
Yeah, Brenda, give me 1 second. It's coming in slowly. All right. Let me get back to the questions. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So now let me, Rodrigo and Raj, any questions on number 3? Does this help you clarify the 3 different mechanisms we have for connecting to, CDS to ODL and ODL to CDS?
Yes, we have a lot now to think about. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. So let's go down to the next set of questions. Okay. Now go ahead.
No, okay, go.
So I know that Brenda just demonstrated a few component implementations. Does that help, or do you want to address number 4?
No, that's what I would say. We are already seeing the resource resolution. It was very good. Thank you.
Okay. And then number 5. So number 5 is more of an integration of what we want to do between SO and the controllers of how we want to do network assignments. And I provided some feedback around that. There's still some questions about how would SO know about what is the blueprint to call. So that is something that the Ofer from SDC is looking into. Now, for all the resource resolutions for like naming generation and IP assignments, in ONAP in Casablanca release, we had generic resource API for the VNF flow, kind of integrated to do all the naming generations and IP assignments, but we don't have anything yet for PNF. So we have to decide which options we want to use for PNF. That's something that we need to decide as well.
Okay, and how this decision will be discussed?
Yeah, we want to discuss it with Oscar, Alexei, the folks that it's more of a resource question. So if, let's say, we have resources to integrate Netbox and naming microservice capabilities in CDS, then that would be the preferred method. If we don't have it, then we either decide to go with inputs or we decide to just use the generic resource API to store the network assignment data.
Okay. In one of the feedback you provided about step 5, you say that the blueprint processor doesn't return the resolved network assignment back to SO. It just saves the data in inventory or SDNC MDSAL DB that store. Could you please just expand a little about this? Because my question is, I understand that SO will call us first to get the network assignment, and in the second step, it will ask us to actually configure the node.
Yes, yes. So I think in your step, what you had was that all the parameter data would be returned to SL?
Yeah, that was what I understood, but you said
right.
It's not correct. It will be saved either in inventory or MDSAL
right.
store.
Right. Yeah. So the current way it works is that we don't return data to SO, the param data. What happens is that we store the dynamic parameters either in ANI as an inventory store, or we can store it in MDSAL, or store it in a database itself. So that data becomes later available. So the only thing you would pass as part of your config, action is just the key, like the PNF ID, right?
Let me explain that. Okay.
Go ahead.
So here we are not defining that response. Okay, it is not like we are not returning. Okay, it's like a flow that we are defining that. As in the part of the flow, you can gather or you can aggregate the data, and finally you can write a capability component, okay, to persist in a database, and as well as you can expose those services separately. So in that way, you can manage how we want to expose the data or how we want to return the data based on that events also. You can try to manage that entire architecture. Because this platform we are trying to build as a reusable and it's a generic platform, we don't want to concentrate on that low levels of the design. Okay, so it has to process, it has to send a configuration device, it can retrieve the configuration from the device itself, and after then you can send it to a queue or you can write your own custom logic based on how it has to, okay, whether it has to publish to that multiple party or you can store it in a database, and you can write a separate API to expose that data also. So our platform boundary it's to provide a processing platform, not to expose an API to that outside world or return that information to that outside world.
Okay, thank you. The other questions I think we talked about. Sorry, one last question. In the CCSTK text, the ticket text, it said that we should send amount and amount command to the PNF to mount the netconf server and then later amount it. One question that was discussed here in the team is what would be the best way to mount and amount the netconf server with every session, or should we mount the netconf only once and let the netconf server available forever?
Yeah, this is a critical situation that also we had taken the decision. Okay, is there any monitoring that you are trying to do it with that device and inside that ODL?
Sorry, could you say again?
Are you doing any monitoring activity?
Not planned at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And moreover, we faced a lot of issues in terms of that server getting back once again, and then it takes a long time to mount once again, and it is not available for the initial request. So many issues that we got that with the mounting and unmounting, and even mounting also. It takes in an asynchronous way, and sometimes we couldn't get that actual or capture that information of mount successful. So once you send a request, okay, mount request will be there in a queue, but you don't get that actual mount response. So it will take some time, and we want to trigger 2 or 3 times or 4 times to get that whether it is mount is successful or not. Okay, so in that way only it has designed that. So what we thought, like, is there any necessity to mount the device, and we want to keep that mounting throughout the process. Okay, so that's where we got into the picture. So finally we ended up, okay, there is no need for that because we are not doing monitoring, and then unnecessarily the server becomes a slowdown, okay, during that initial startup itself. Okay, so what we thought, that's the reason we went into tweak that adapter and then just use that netconf just only for configuration, because we are not doing a monitoring process also. Okay, in our case. That's the reason we went, it's a separate adapter. But if your case or if your use case mandates that monitoring process, okay, and as well as if you want to access that or change the configuration in a response way, okay, then definitely I could prefer you mount the device, and then after once, how frequently that you change the configuration for in a device?
Right. The question is, are you doing just infrastructure changes, or are you doing service configuration on your device?
So we are making service configuration in the device, but we wouldn't be changing configuration. I think I think we establish the configuration, and then the configuration will be there for a long time. I haven't seen or I haven't heard about changing the configuration after set.
So what you're saying is that the current use case is just doing a single configuration. You don't have a lot of incremental configuration afterwards, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding at the moment.
In that case, I think you can, once you do the configuration, you can unmount that. I think it is not needed to be there in that case.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what I just captured is that the points that if there is no monitoring activity involved, then unmount should be executed for Dublin itself.
Yes, that's my understanding as well.
Okay. Raj and Rodrigo, let's just. Any other questions on these things? I think most of these we have addressed already. Anything else?
Yes. All the other questions were already addressed. Thank you very much. On our side, I think we don't have any more questions at the moment. Now we are going to dig into the code and get a better understanding of it.
Okay. Excellent. And if you do also decide to contribute to the TLS, I think that will be a great contribution. If you decide to go to the CDS ODL path, that's also good. Just let us know what is decided so that we can help you get to the use case itself.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. And I'll reply back to this email itself.
Okay.
And the other point is that we have to check with the team to see when the actual Docker image will be available. So that you can even do some testing as well.
Okay, the resource solution test that showed was already a very good example of it. So we'll be following that lines at the moment.
Okay.
Yes, Yuri, about Yuri, do you hear me?
Oh, Steve, yes, you go ahead.
Yes, about the OOM chat for blueprint controller and the blueprint processor and controller blueprint Docker images. I think they are already done in the Gary repository, but we need to. I think there is some issue with the OOM when we deployed in OOM. So I will see it with Alexia, and then we'll merge everything. But it works now. So you can just build the both image and the database, and then you have your CGS instance running.
Excellent. That would be great. I think a lot of folks are looking forward to start using that itself.
Yeah, the Docker works already. It's just not integrated with ONM.
The OM, yes. So actually now you can just build your images. You have three images. I think it's 3 images. You have the controller blueprint, and then you have blueprint processor image, and then the last one is the MySQL database. So So once you have those three images, you just instantiate them, and then you can have your CGS instance running. So it's working. So the last thing is just to integrate with OM.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Tim. And I want to put another agenda also. I think one agenda I could say that we want to improve the unit test cases. Okay. I don't know how many people are working on that unit test cases because according to the last report, we have only 51% of test coverage. It went down. So we want to improve that unit test coverage. That's a one agenda. We want to make it, and then once we write the unit test cases altogether completely, then I think product will be more stable. That's another way.
That's a very good point, Brenda. Let's maybe we can cover that in the next Tuesday call about how we can get more unit test coverage itself.
Exactly.
We have a couple of more minutes. Brenda, do you want to cover? There's one more topic. There are actually a couple more topics. I know that, let me see, Arunati, you're not here, right? Actually, Arunati, you're here. Arunati, I know you had something about.
One more thing, Yuri. Before that, I want to comment one for Steve actually. Steve, put all the Python scripts right inside that Python directory, right, or Jython directory. Okay. But like I made it for Kotlin, you want to don't please not to put under scripts directly, right?
Yep. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, and one more thing, I'm planning to do a refactoring of the core module and the resource dictionary to the controller blueprints. Okay, just I'm giving that intimation. Okay, so that and after then I will let you know that okay the blueprint because. Starter package we are using for all the test cases, so we are going to. I'm planning to move the base configuration to test blueprints later point of time. Okay, I will inform that before I move on. Okay, yeah, that's all I have. Go ahead, Yuri.
Perfect. Brenda, there was one more question. Maybe we can cover. Janani had config a property.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let me share that, Janani.
Janani, are you there? Let me just make sure she's there. Let's see. Hey, Janani, are you there? She might have stepped out. Okay, so if Janani is not available, there was one topic, Arunati, you had for Kotlin backend support?
Yes, Yuri. Actually, I just wanted to know, what are the user stories there to pick up? I have Chandan here from my team who will take up that work. So if we can discuss on that.
Yeah, let me explain, Arundhati. Arundhati, you are able to hear me, right?
Yes, Brenda.
Okay. So what we have done, it's like I believe you have seen that user story related to scripting, right? Kotlin scripting. Have you taken a look of what we have done till now?
Not really. Chandan, did you get the chance to go through that?
Yeah, I have gone through that actually.
Okay, then it's fine. Then I think I can. Okay. So what we have done is in this release we have we created some frameworks around that how to do a scripting. So that you could see under that modules called blueprint scripts. Under the blueprint scripts we have. Let me explain that just a little bit so that you can explain. We have a host. Okay, host is a high-level scripting. So it means like the entire framework. It's you can inject what we are trying to do. Since it's a Kotlin, it's a Java-related kind of stuff actually. First, we want to convert into jar file, and then we want to execute. We want to include the jar file in a class form, and then we want to execute that. So that's a difference between Python and Java. And one more thing, what we are trying to do in this case, we are trying to compile that script files, and jar file it should be in a certain format, and then the creation of the jar file, it is only one time, right? Because we don't want to create a jar file for each and every time, and during that preparing or downloading that blueprint from a database and keeping in a flat file. So during that process, we want to have a compilation, and as well as, or else during the first invocation, we want to have that compilation. So that kind of architecture we have created. Okay. So what we want to make sure that during that catalog download or from the catalog services itself, whether this is working fine properly, and then okay, let me try to collect that points once again. Just give me a second. Yeah. Okay. So what we want to do it here, it's in this case, we want to wrap that similar functionality. Right now, we have the functionality just for compiling and executing. The test only we have that. Okay, we want to integrate with netconf kind of capabilities or other component function capabilities. Okay, only we have done for resource resolution. If you look into that, resource resolution side, we have done that for the capability integration. But we want to do that scripting capability for other component functions also. Because slightly we are worried about that Python and Jython because of the support we have, and moreover the Python version support also, it is not there with respect to Jython, right? Jython 2.7 only it supports that. And so many security related issues inside this Jython. So that's the reason we want to have an alternate plan for scripting. So we want to have a Kotlin scripting alternate plan also. So that's the reason we want to integrate this netconf to Kotlin also. So what Kotlin, one other advantage that we are going to get, it's like it is going to be a very fast, okay, because both are JVM, and once you make it like a jar file, then automatically it will execute fast, okay, and then handshaking that data and instance also, it will be easier. So in that way, we have that requirement, okay, to have that services. What are the services, okay, we built in that netconf, and as well as we want to wrap with Kotlin script for netconf executor. You are clear, right? That is a user story. I will write a user story clearly. Just on high level, this is the user story that we want to do with respect to Kotlin.
Okay.
Okay, Brinda, was that it for this topic?
Sorry?
Was that it for this topic? Janani is back. We can take the DMAP.
Yeah. Okay.
Janani, are you there? Let me make sure she's there.
Hi, can you hear me?
Okay, now we can hear you.
Yeah, Janani. Janani, can you explain like what you have done that so that I can take from that point itself? Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like to share?
So, just a second. I just moved my code. I'll just open my code.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take sharing. I don't think I have sharing option.
You have a share screen option? Oh, you connected through web
okay.
or? Okay, no issues.
Yeah.
Let me explain that. Okay, no issue. Okay, I have seen your code. About the scenario. Okay, let me tell the scenario and then you try to explain it. We have the scenario. One request, it has to send to one. Another request we want to send. So what we want to do is like we want to get what topic name, only that topic or high level selector name only we want to try to get that. With that selector name, we want to retrieve that configuration, and then we want to apply for this particular publishing request. We want to apply that particular.
Sorry, Brinda. Can you come again? Your sound just got muted in between. Can you come again?
Yeah. See here, our use case, it's not a single message published. So each request, different publishing, different place we want to publish each topic based on, it may be an event or it may be an actual response. So each place we want to publish in a different configuration. So it's like we want to define a property or selector, I could say. So in that configuration file, from that configuration file, that has an association, right? That has context association, that has an environment association, that has a credential association. Okay, so with that association, that name, associated name, we want to use the configuration information, and we want to use it for the certain request. So in that way, we want to do that. We don't want to build in a generic or one topic driven kind of thing. Okay, just for
okay, go ahead. I'll just note down what is the requirement. I'll say what I have done also.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. And let me talk about one sample also, how we are trying to do. Okay, this is similar to that REST. Assume that REST, okay, each request it has to go to different endpoint, right? So how we have done, okay, in that case, yeah. So this is one property, application.property. Assume that this is a application.property variable. Here we have a sample. This is a selector. So similarly, you can have n number of endpoint information. In your case, you may have n number of a topic and relevant credential or environment information or context information. You may have that. Okay. So this is a selector information, and this selector information, I use it to retrieve the property. Okay. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to retrieve first a property, okay, relevant property, okay, based on that particular selector. On the selector, I'm trying to retrieve that property, and then I am making use of this property to send that response. So in that case, I can manage n number of topics and n number of, because each one has a different environment I want to post, and then each one will have a different credential mechanism. Each topic has its different authentication and authorization information. Okay, and then it may have a different group information also. Okay, so in that case, I want to manage, this is since it is a common platform, we want to manage multiple topic and multiple configuration, and we want to define a selector pattern. So using the selector pattern, I want to retrieve that property, and with that property, I want to send that message. Okay, so like that, no, just for an example, in this case, we have defined that look into that. Property, yeah. We have defined that. Once again, yeah. See here, these are all the property information. It's a different nature we have defined that. But in your case, if you feel that all the topics property is going to be the same, then you can define a property, and just by using that configuration service, okay, we have a similarly service, okay, which takes that which reads that application.property and return as a corresponding property. We have created that. In that fashion, you can define that a number of property selectors there, and then pass it, and finally convert that prefix into property. That property will be available for your generic framework to send that message. Right? Yeah. This is the
Yeah. What I have done is similar to this only, but only thing is that I didn't use that property source. Some annotation is there where application.properties will be loaded. That I didn't use. Instead, what I have done is because we don't know which components it may be there, so I have made it generic, and I'm loading all the properties according to the client's name of the property. I load it and I use it.
Exactly.
If you have, Yeah, if you have my code, we can just
I
pick
have seen
one
that. Yeah,
so
I have
that-
seen that. Just to go through that. Okay. Only thing is like this is a missing, right? You want to define that property definition name as a bean, and then you want to use retrieve from that. So just write one test cases, no, so that I will understand that, right?
Okay, okay. So, do you have any review on, like, do you want me to use this property source and do it, or is this fine currently?
No, I want
because I just want. I thought like we have to give the flexibility to users to give any name, and no need to give that name in a code again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
That's what I'm trying to say. So this is a property variable only. Okay, we are not going to give it in a code. We are going to define in a property actually. Okay, so that value it's come. If you look into this service itself, no, this is not hard coded value. Let me show that. Okay.
Okay.
Prefix is not hard coded. Okay. So in this case, see here, this is not hard coded. Anywhere it is not hard coded. Okay. So assume that this test case, see here. Assume that okay, this prefix, right? This comes from a part of the code, part of the model.
Okay. Okay.
You're getting it, right?
Okay. Yeah. So I get this. I understand this. I agree with it also, and I'll modify it. So other than that, is it fine, the rest of the code?
Other than that, fine. Only thing is I want to see that whether it is actually working or not, because with that code I could not.
Yeah, that I tested in an environment that is working. I can. The problem is in test cases there is no actual server to test it, so it will just be like we are sending it.
No, you can have an interface and mock it. Oh, that's not an issue. Okay, just if you feel that integration and at least provide a test.
DMAP mocking is not there, so I can just do Kafka some Spring Boot server as last time Alexi gave a comment on that. But again, it won't be flexible enough to test everything. It's just like I'm sending it.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever you are able to test, mock means a simple Java mock. I'm saying that. Okay, so you can separate that invocation call as in a separate interface and just mock only that interface. That's it. Okay, rest of the things that I want to see that. Yeah. Here also see here REST not doing that, right? REST we are not making a call.
Okay, fine.
So we mock,
I'll fix it tomorrow.
Only that REST call, only that client call, right? So similarly, you can also mock and you can try to do that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And
thank you.
Yeah, and another thing I to think like yeah. Before that, you want to look at any conflicts with the jar file itself, because not now. Earlier I noticed that for DMAP jar files, it had a conflict with lot of with the other thing, that it includes a lot of other Jessie and all. So just to concentrate on what is needed in this space, right?
Okay.
And ignore that some other jar files which is not needed or which is loaded earlier by the platform itself. Yeah.
Okay. So actually, if I want to test it whether it is working as a container or something, is it okay if I make it a fat jar and run it with a Docker file?
Yeah. Not itself. You can run here itself. Okay, you could see there. I have that. Okay, let me show that. Okay, you can run this application file. Okay, this is one thing I missed to tell to all. Okay, here I imported the code, and then you have a blueprint processing platform. Just you want to run this file actually. That's it. Okay, so edit configuration I have. I'm not sure about which environment I have that. Okay, only thing is you want to start that start some MySQL database or something like that. Only thing is only here you need is a MySQL or Maria database. That's it. And then rest of the things you can see it in a README file. Okay, I have a README file here. Yeah. Okay. So with this README file, you can set the configuration and then set that application path. Then you can launch from here itself. Okay. So you don't need to run it in a Docker container and test it. Here itself you can run and test it. Right.
Okay.
If you couldn't do that, then just in another call I can explain that, or I can tell how to start this here from log. Yeah. And concentrate on the jar fill. We don't want to mess with the jar fill, right? Okay.
Yeah. One more thing is when I tested in an environment, I was able to do it for a normal HTTP request. I am not able to do DME2 or AAF. For that, I needed a server which is able to support it, and I don't know how that will be going. If any requirement is there which mandatorily requires AAF-based HTTP or DME2, then I just
exactly.
Okay,
that's what
then
I
I'll first test that.
You use the DME2s and rest of the infrastructure along with that. Okay, so authorization, everything will come together. I forgot that. Okay, just you can explore that long time. 1 year, 1.5 years before I looked into that, but I forgot right now.
Yeah, because in ONAP, anywhere I am searching, there is no guide to set up a DMAP server with AAF or DME2. So
Is it possible to arrange a call with any DME2 person in ONAP, DME2 and DMAP?
Let me find out if we have who supports DME2. I don't know if we have it in ONAP. But let me find out. Let me talk to Dan and see what he says and maybe some other PCL, and I'll get back to you.
Okay. So in that case, whatever you can do, just try to do. We will. I think you will get connect with. You will make a connection with you.
Okay. Right. For now, let the priority be, AAF and a Spring Boot application that you have. DME2, I will double check.
Okay, and this use case only we are targeting for publishing that response, okay, as an alternate solution actually, or definitely we may need that because if everybody is going to consume that events and all those things in DME2, or DMAP, then we need that. Otherwise, gRPC, that's the reason we brought the gRPC for bidirectional communication. So for internal communications and sending that response, we can use the gRPC connection. And suppose if we want to publish that events to any other system who wants to consume that, then we can make use of that.
Okay.
All right. There was one more topic, but we can take it for next week.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Brenda and the team for joining and going over all the topics and overviews.
Sure. Thanks, Tim. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, everybody.